10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Boggies, it's us, your favorite Daryl and Aaron. Can you believe it? We're back for episode 38 of Your Brain on God. I'm offended. You're offended. It seems like everybody in the world is offended. So we want to talk about what it looks like to live unoffendable in relationships, not making it about us so that we're so offended, but also taking responsibility for our part in relationships and offending others. We hope that you get so much freedom through this episode. It's going to be a great one. Enjoy. Yeah, Boggies, we're talking about offense today. Being offended, and it's something that needs to be talked about because relationships are put in turmoil because we're getting offended. And you can see pretty easily in our culture right now how offended people are, how insulted they are at other people's beliefs, how angry they are because of the ways people think and because of what other people say. People are frustrated and bothered and irritated and full of... Yes, just full of offense. And we know that being offended doesn't produce healthy fruit in relationships. And so it's something that we as individuals, as people, as children of God, need to learn how to deal with so that we can better communicate and move towards more healthy relationships with those that we love rather than live in offense. So we're going to talk about that today, about what offense looks like, about where it comes from, about the motives behind why we even use offense as a tool in relationships, and then ways that we can let go of offense so that we can have healthy relationships.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a simple definition of offense. And it says this, the state of being insulted or morally outraged. So offense, simply put, is usually about us being upset about something. I think on a personal, relational level, it is often a feeling of being insulted. Whether it is, you're talking to somebody and then they open up their phone and start scrolling through something, you can feel insulted, like they're not caring about you, they're not listening to you, they're not paying attention to you, right? It could be same thing about driving. Something can happen where there are some people across the room and they look at you and start laughing and you think that they're making fun of you. You feel insulted. Right. And, there's all these different kinds of situations, or somebody shows up later than what they said they were going to show up to a meeting or to come home or whatever, and you can feel a level of insult.
Somebody in your household is messy or leaves things out, or they, your spouse works too much and you're offended that they don't spend more time maybe at home. This stuff, comes in so many different ways, and there's so many different opportunities in our life to just be angry, to just be angry and to hold on to stuff and allow that stuff to breed resentment in our relationships. And it's often said that when we live in offense, we build a fence. We build a fence, and that fence keeps us from deep connection and honestly love for other people. When we live in that space, we build up walls and we build up that resentment that can ultimately break apart relationships if you don't actually deal and communicate about those things.
Yeah. So when we get offended in a relationship, like Aaron was saying, it builds up walls, and it builds up this separation. It builds a sense of now I don't know if I can talk to this person or how to talk to this person, and we end up being defensive, and we end up walking around eggshells because we don't know if I say this, are they going to get hurt, or I don't know what to do, how to navigate this. And ultimately, offense causes separation in relationships, and it comes in little degrees. And I think often it can be in even our closest relationships. Whenever we don't have healthy communication, offense can come really easily. And it stays there, and it just is like this underlying surface of, I don't know if I can say something or not say something, or when something happens, now I feel targeted, and I want to push away from the relationship, right? And it causes defensiveness, and often our sense of being offended is really a defense, because we feel attacked, and so now we're going to push back against this person. We're trying to defend our sense of value, our sense of who we are.
Yeah.
And it just, it can so easily tear apart relationships when we get offended.
Yeah. And ultimately, it comes, from this sense that you don't have power in your relationships, and that there's kind of like a victim mentality that's tied into being offended, where it's like you're attacking me, you're insulting me, you're saying things that are maybe contrary to my own beliefs, and it doesn't allow for a space for that healthy communication to happen, and we talk about it a lot on the podcast, is that our natural drive is to protect ourselves. And what we like to do in protecting ourselves is, like you said, offense becomes a defense against people because you're on edge about what they're going to say, about what they're going to do, about whether or not, I don't know, you're on edge of something could happen to me. And that's ultimately where some of these feelings of offense come from and start from.
Yeah. And I think that if we were to, so we listened to this guy, he's a therapist, psychologist, and he's talking about why people get offended. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he talked about, which it sounds really cheesy, but I think it's actually really powerful, is he talks about people getting offended and acting like they have no choice in the matter. And one of the things he says is...
Daryl loves this phrase.
He says, it's not a choice until you realize it is. And he's talking about being offended specifically. That you have to be aware that you have the ability to respond to somebody saying something.
Right.
You have the ability to respond, like Aaron was just saying. We can't give up if we give up our power, we're not going to think we can respond. Because now it's not in my hands, right? Whatever just happened that causes pain inside of me has nothing to do with, I don't have any responsibility in it. I can't do anything about this feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to react this way. But if we truly realize that we have the ability to respond in situations, then we have the responsibility, meaning we have the ability to respond. Mm-hmm. And we can actually choose how we navigate the feeling of being offended.
Right.
And I think that we so easily get offended when we make it about us.
Right.
Whenever it's not about us.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is, in this, I'm going to use this example because I feel like it's so easy, so accessible, so common that when you're talking to somebody and they go on their phone and they start scrolling through something, or they pick up a remote and start watching TV, or, and they start doing something that kind of veggies out while you're trying to tell them something.
Probably unaware that they're even doing it,
Right, exactly.
But it's probably not like an intentional thing about like, I don't care what you're saying, maybe sometimes, but
yeah, but it's probably not. But if we make it about us, it is about, this means that what they're doing is they don't care about what I have to say. Mm-hmm. They don't want to know what's going on inside of my heart or inside of my mind. Mm-hmm. They are just terrible listeners, and I'm not important to them. And we make it about us when maybe it's not about us in that moment.
Right.
It could be about them. Mm-hmm. Right. And it could be that they're exhausted, they're tired, they had a really long day, that they haven't learned how to have healthy communication. And that is about them. It's not really a you thing. Mm-hmm. That means I don't need to get offended when this person stops paying attention because they don't know how to have healthy communication. Right. And so why is that going to upset me?
Right.
I want to be able to take back that power to respond in that situation.
Right.
Or we get offended. Oh, go.
I was just going to say, and living in that space is living based on perception rather than maybe reality. Right.
The things that we perceive.
The things that we perceive in other people. And so a large part of offense is us living based on our own perception and understanding of things, even if those understandings and perceptions are surface level and without communication. And really, our main responsibility is to go beyond the surface level to actually communicate with people. If we want a healthy relationships, you got to dig deep into what's actually going on. You got to have communication. You got to seek those things. And so offense often is caused at taking things at surface level, right? At face value, and then creating our own meanings or our own perception of what is happening, even if that might not be reality. Now, that person might not actually care, about you, and they might be looking at their phone or watching TV because they don't care about you, but most likely not. I think most people are like, they're usually pretty civil to some degree and wouldn't do that, right? But even if they are, we're still basing our offense off of perception rather than reality, right?
Right.
And I think going beyond offense, it causes us, it stirs us to make a move beyond the surface level and into actually reality, where our last episode talked about actually communicating about those things.
Yeah.
Hey, or communicating what you need in that moment. Hey, I was wondering if you could just turn off the TV real quick. I just really need you to hear me out. I need some help on this. And then they're like, oh, okay. They can help you out. Right. So, but I think that's a lot of where offense is caused is seeing those things on the surface level too.
Yeah. The perception that we have of someone else, whether or not whether it's a direct interaction, sometimes indirect interactions, we assume we know what the person is thinking. We think that person did this on purpose.
Yeah.
We think that, that they're thinking negative things about me, or they believe this about me.
Creating stories.
We create stories that we get offended about, and those stories may not even be true or happening at all, or based in reality.
Yeah.
And we have this offense that's coming from this place of non-existence. It's coming from something that doesn't even exist, because it's all about things that we've made up in our head about what somebody else is thinking or believing. And then we get hurt by what we made up.
Yeah.
And we are living in this place of pain and offense, and causing separation in the relationship. And like we said, offense often causes defense. And so we just put up walls and try to protect ourselves instead of reaching out to the person and communicating. Hey, when you said that, it felt like you meant this. Is that what you meant? Or, hey, I know that this might be a dumb question, but did you mean this when you said that? Or, hey, when you did this, it made me feel like this. I just wanted to let you know. And we don't give the person a chance to actually say what they're thinking or what they're experiencing, what they're believing. We just assume that we know where it's coming from.
Right. I think it's important, the distinction between being hurt and being offended as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because being offended, like I said, is on the surface level, where you're creating perceptions that might not exist. But hurt is a very real thing, and it's okay to experience hurt or even some level of offense. The goal is not to stay in offense and allow that to build up walls in relationships, right? So I could even be offended at something that you do, but I just need to recognize in myself, not allow that offense to build up offense in our relationship, and actually communicate to make sure that we're on the same page, so I can let go of that offense, which would later cause bitterness, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important also to deal with what's going on inside of you. If that did hurt you, like you said, to communicate to that person and make sure that everything is good.
Right. Because if I'm hurt and offended, I probably don't want to try to repair in that moment.
Right.
I'm probably going to push away. I'm probably going to either push away or attack and start pointing my finger and blaming somebody else. So there's been times in mine and Brittany's marriage where we will be talking, and then one of us will get on our phone. It's like at the end of the day, we're really tired, exhausted. We'll just pick up our phone, and we think that, we're having a kind of a casual conversation. Like, hey, I actually wanted to talk about something important.
Is this what she does, or are you just talking about yourself?
No, it's happened on both sides. But I've definitely been guilty of it. And something that I love and appreciate about Brittany, and I think I said this in the last episode, is that she communicates with me. And so in this, where I could pick up my phone, start doing something, and maybe she was starting to talk about something that was important to her, and I didn't realize it, or I was exhausted, tired, whatever reason, wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been. If I pick up my phone and I start scrolling through something, or just looking at something, or writing something down, she'll say something to me that is expressing her desire for me to listen to her and to be present. And what she could do is just get offended, stop talking,
distance herself,
pick up her phone. Yeah. And I might not even notice, because if I zoned out for whatever reason,
right.
And then she's harboring hurt and offense and anger. And then I'll realize it later, like, oh wait, are you okay? Did something happen?
Right.
you know? But what she does is she communicates. She might feel hurt, but I don't think she doesn't let offense keep that distance between us.
Right.
So even though we feel hurt We don't have to harbor anger or keep that pain to ourselves, but say something. Hey, really want to talk to you about this thing. Can you put your phone down for a minute?
Right.
I just want your attention.
And that ultimately comes down to offense being me focused versus other people focused.
Yeah.
Right. Or connection focused, relationship driven, living that way. Because offense is like, that's very easy for her to do. If she was to, I'm just going to go on my phone. I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to disconnect. That is an easier thing to do than actually seeing the value of a relationship and moving past, again, this is what's happening. This is what I'm perceiving. He doesn't care. I'm just going to do my own thing. Right. Rather than saying like, hey, babe, like, can you hear me out? I'm kind of struggling with this. Like, I'd really love to be present with you right now. And then Daryl, you love your wife. So you're like, yeah, what am I doing? I'm looking up cuttlefish facts,
Probably. Yeah. And that is my chance to then respond to her. She actually gives me an opportunity to respond to her pain.
Yeah.
When she doesn't live out of offense. Right? Because if she was living out of offense, I wouldn't even have that chance unless I caught it on my own, which sometimes that happens in our relationship. Well, one of us will realize, hey, are you okay? Like, and we, in doing that, we give ourselves the opportunity to have a reconnection.
Yeah.
Hey, is everything okay? Did I do something or say something? Are you all right? Because we go through life and we do things without knowing it.
Yeah.
And it can cause offense to people.
Yeah.
And if we don't address it and say something and acknowledge that, hey, I might have done something that was wrong or caused pain.
Right.
Then we go through life causing all of this turmoil without realizing it or else without taking any responsibility in it.
Right.
And and we live in this place of offense in so many of our relationships.
Yeah. I think in today's culture, which screams out maybe a lot of, love each other and include each other and be there for other people and be an advocate for other people. And I don't just speak politically, but that's like a general positivity culture. I think we have a real struggle with giving grace to the fact that people are human beings. And this comes back to being self-focused, because we can't see other people, and this is where a lot of offense comes. Again, coming back to that, being self-focused.
Makes it about us when it's not.
Yeah, we make it about us when it's not realizing that that people have real feelings and they make mistakes. Like you said, these offenses are gonna happen in marriage. You're gonna do stuff that you had no intention to do, that you weren't even aware of doing. I'm gonna say things that are stupid because I got a big mouth sometimes, right? And I'm so glad that Abby is able to see me and has the idea of pursuing connection, and not just like distancing herself and counting me out and doing her own thing. She actually pursues me, and I do the same thing for her, right? But to deal with offense, we have to first accept that people are people. Right? And that they're humans and that they're imperfect. And God forbid they say something that maybe rubs you the wrong way, And I think if we expect people to be perfection or to always say things that are encouraging to us or make us feel good or even align with maybe our beliefs or ideas, or that somebody would say something that makes us feel fully known all the time, we are in for a rude awakening and we're going to be offended all the time. Because if I'm relying on somebody else to validate me and make me feel okay, again being me focused, I'm missing the point. And I think a large part of this, and this is why it's so beautiful that God gives us freedom from offense, is that our identity and our value is rooted in Him. Right? And so if my identity and value are rooted in Him and God is never changing, then you can offend me, but it doesn't mean those deep things about me that I might be perceiving. Right? So say, again, we're coming back to this picking up the phone thing. I make somebody's action about my value. Right? They're not listening to me because I'm not valuable. Well, that's only true if my value comes from you listening to me.
Right.
But that's not the source of my value. And so you not paying attention to me doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me, even if I'm boring in that moment. It doesn't have to do with my identity because I'm rooted in Jesus.
Yeah.
So being rooted in Jesus, I know my value is unshakable and unchanged. So if someone does something to offend me, that doesn't shape who I am or my value in that situation, right?
Right.
But oftentimes, if my value is in other people or how people treat me, I'm going to be tossed to and fro, right? But because God's had grace for me and my values in him, I can see other people, have grace for other people, and realize, hey, they might be tired. Hey, maybe they're addicted to social media. I've been there as well. Like when there's a downtime or I get bored, pull out the phone and go, right? And so having empathy for people, it's hard to get offended for them if you can really see them because you're rooted in Jesus, right?
Yes, yeah.
And you can also see yourself as a human being that makes mistakes too. So now I'm not as mad at you because I do the same things. Right. So it's like I say things that are hurtful. So why am I so mad at you for saying something that's hurtful? Or my feelings are all over the place. So why am I getting mad at you because you have a certain feeling? Right. Like my beliefs change all the time. So I can't be mad at you for your beliefs changing about a certain topic or political stance or whatever. It's not having grace for each other because we don't have grace for ourselves oftentimes, right? And I'm going to use it. I'm going to go here, Daryl. Offense, it becomes a mirror fence, right?
It's a mirror.
It's often a mirror because oftentimes what we're getting offended about is stuff that we're offended in our own spirit about.
Yes,
right.
And I think that this is another key point is that we get offended when we make it about them when it's about us.
Right.
Because they say something that offends us, they do something that offends us, and we put the blame on them for our own pain and suffering and feeling of like feeling less valuable. When really it's something that we believe about ourselves. Right. Really, it's something that we do that we don't like. When it's something that we say sometimes and realize, hey, I shouldn't have said that, and we make it about the other person when it's really about us.
Yeah.
And if somebody says something, and it's completely has no attachment to who I am or my sense of identity or what I believe or anything, it doesn't cause offense because I don't agree with what they're saying at all. Right. I think that when we get offended at what people say, it's often because there's something inside of us that agrees with what they're saying.
That resonates with what they're saying. It resonates
with what they're saying, that this might be true. Yeah. This might actually be true. Or is there something inside of me that is making them think that this is true about me? Yeah. And that's when we get offended.
Right.
I was listening to a speaker and he was talking to the audience. He was like, if I called all of you oranges and said you're all an orange, you wouldn't get offended because you're not an orange.
But if I said you're a failure,
someone might get offended because something inside of you might think, oh my gosh, I feel like you might actually believe that inside your own heart that you're a failure because of something.
Right.
And maybe it's not something on the surface. Maybe it's not something that you constantly tell yourself, but something inside of you thinks, oh my gosh, I can't be a failure. I need to prove that I'm not a failure. Yeah. Because there's a reason that someone might believe I'm a failure.
And I've said this on the podcast before, but a while ago, God told me, he said, Aaron, you only fight the lies that you believe. Right. So you only fight against things that have some, I guess, glimmer of truth in them, or could be true, or at least that you're afraid is true, and so when you feel already unlovable or without value, you're going to see through that lens, and you're naturally going to feel more offense from people because what they do is going to confirm something in you or kind of flick a sensitive spot on you. And we talked about this before, when you have that little injury, it seems like you keep hitting it on something, or, it gets more attacked. It's probably not that it gets more attacked. You're just more aware of that little sensitive part on you, right? And normal things, if your wrist hurts or something and you reach to open up the door, you're more aware of that sensitive part in you. And so that ultimately draws us to seek healing, not to get offended at another person. Like we said, offense is defense, right? And we're terribly afraid to be honest with where we're actually at.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it, is that we don't take an honest look at ourselves and think, is this something that could be true about me?
Right.
Or what about this is true? And if we take an honest look without judgment, and we talked about this in, I think in our self-awareness episode, but if we look at ourselves without judgment, then we can actually assess, is this true about me? If it is, do I want to stay that way, or do I want to do something about it? And then again, that's taking power back. The sense of, hey, I get to choose how I respond to this.
Right.
And if I look at myself and I say, hey, is this actually true about me? And if it's not true about me, then why am I going to spend time being hurt about it?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to buy into that and spend all this energy trying to prove that it's not if I know that it's not true.
Yeah.
And it is so much about our willingness to be vulnerable and honest with ourselves,
right?
And being able to acknowledge those pains inside of us, right? Like I hurt my knee a couple of days ago, twisted it in a weird way, and it felt a little funny at first, but then it felt fine, and I was able to walk, and I didn't feel anything at all. I thought, okay, this is great.
Right.
And then last night, I was just moving like a coffee table, sliding it over a little bit, and I just pushed it with my leg instead of like moving it. But push it, how's I've done 1,000 times, just like readjust it. But I pushed it with my leg, and then my knee felt like this sharp pain inside.
You're starting to get old, Daryl.
I know.
That's something an old man would say.
I was rock climbing, okay? I twisted it in a weird way. But I didn't know that pain was there until it got tested.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know there's a pain or a hurt or an insecurity or something from the past that is still hurting us and affecting us until it gets tested.
Right.
And it often shows up in offense. And so if we get offended by something, that's an opportunity for us to look for a way for us to heal.
Right.
It's a chance for us to find, hi, how can I actually heal? How can I become better? How can I heal? How can I look at these things in my past or this thing that is hurting me? And what can I do about this so I'm not living from this place of pain anymore?
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now. It's called The Voice of the Heart, and it's about like he trademarks it, which I hate. But anyway, he calls it like the 8 core feelings or something like that. And his idea is, we've said on the podcast, feelings aren't good or bad. They just are. He disagrees with that, and I disagree with him. But he disagrees with that. He thinks there's only 8 core feelings, and everything else isn't a feeling. It's a symptom of these 8 feelings. I also disagree with that. But something that he does say is that he says he thinks, which I can get on board with, that feelings are good, that these 8 feelings are good inherently because they lead to good, right? If you embrace them. And he talks about hurt and how hurt is the avenue towards healing.
Right.
And oftentimes we push away hurt because it feels uncomfortable. We don't like it. We push away offense because we either feel like we shouldn't feel it or we just don't want to feel it, right? But hurt and even offense, like you said, is an avenue towards healing and uncovering something that you might not know about yourself, which and knowing more about yourself naturally builds healthier relationships, because to know myself is to know another and to have empathy for another, which naturally leads to healthier relationships, right? And so like you said, we have to be willing to actually step into those vulnerable places, not just get angry about something, right? But notice where that anger is coming from, and then take steps in courage towards connection so that we can build healthy relationships in our lives. And ultimately that comes from, again, seeing another, getting your eyes off yourself, but also knowing if it even is about me, go to the greatest lengths of that. You're going to find truth and you're going to be okay.
Right.
And I think there's like almost pseudo fears that go on in us. It's like, if this is true about me, say this criticism that somebody gave me about my body, about the way I talk, about my voice being too high or too low, or you name an insecurity that it could trigger, right? If I really went to the great depths of a feeling, you can get to like places like, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm nothing, or whatever, or maybe some sort of despair, like if you took a feeling all the way to its end, and then what? It's like, you're still not dead, That's how at least I've seen it. It's like, okay, I feel unlovable. Where do you go from there? Like, and then even feeling that I'm still not going to die. Like, I could take anxiety to the greatest length or hurt to the greatest length and sit there. And then, well, it's also because of Jesus, thank God, right? Because he's like at the greatest length, he's like, but you are lovable. And then it's like, okay. So what I'm saying through all this is, you can go into that hurt and you're going to come out okay. You're going to come out alive, and you're going to come out stronger. And it's actually going to lead you into truth rather than what we're so afraid it's going to lead into us, which is this idea that we're unlovable or unworthy, or that there's something inherently wrong with us and we can't do anything right? Which those thoughts come, but when you go into the darkness, you realize that you're light, in Jesus at least,
Yeah, and it's important to be able to take something and not attach it to your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always mean that you're unlovable because someone doesn't love you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a key part of really navigating offense well is knowing your identity.
Yeah.
And being confident in that you are lovable and nothing's going to change that. It doesn't matter who says what or who does what, right? You can have the most cuddly teddy bear, but if nobody's cuddling with it, doesn't mean it's any less cuddable.
Cuddly?
It's not any less cuddly just because nobody's cuddling with it.
Daryl, you have the most tender heart. He's using cuddle bear illustrations.
And it is, it's like that teddy bear is just as cuddable as it ever was.
Cuddly. I would say cuddly. Cuddable? Why are you saying?
I don't know why I say
Cuddable
that.
sounds like you're going to cut it.
Yeah, cuddly.
Cuddly.
I don't know why I would say that. That teddy bear is not any less cuddly just because nobody's cuddling with it. So know that for you.
So know that you're still cuddly, guys.
If nobody's cuddling with you, it doesn't mean you're any less cuddlingable. What's the word?
Cuddly, Daryl.
Cuddly. I don't know why it's so weird in my brain right now.
Right.
But if nobody's loving you, it doesn't mean you're less lovable.
Right.
Right. Nothing's gonna change how valuable you are. Mm-hmm. Nothing changes your inherent value because you are a creation of the Most High God. It doesn't matter what you believe about Him or anything else. Mm-hmm. You're still valuable, and nothing will change that.
Yeah.
So being confident in that will help navigate offense a lot more easily.
Right.
But even if we do find ourselves believing those things, I'm insecure, I'm unlovable, and don't stop with that. Think, well, remember that you have power to do something. You have power to respond, right? And if I feel a certain way, well, what can I do about this?
Right.
How can I take this as an opportunity to heal? Mm-hmm. How can I take this as an opportunity to grow? How can I take this as an opportunity to have empathy for myself?
Right.
And that's one of the keys, I think, to whenever we take the approach of we're offended and it really is about us, right? If it is about us sometimes, sometimes it's about us, sometimes it's about somebody else. But if we know that, hey, this offense is about something that I'm believing or something that I did and I know that I had a responsibility in this, we need to have empathy for ourselves.
Yeah.
To know, hey, I messed up. Yeah. And I want to take responsibility for that so that I could do something differently. Yeah. And if it's not about us, we get offended, and it's about, it really is not about me. Like I feel fine. Yeah. Any offense is an opportunity to grow in understanding. Because if I get offended by something you did, it's an opportunity for me to try to understand where that came from within you. Right? Recognizing, hey, that probably wasn't about me. Mm-hmm. That was probably because you're really tired or something happened. You're hurt from something. Mm-hmm. So what is it that's going on inside of you? How can I understand you better? Mm-hmm. And if it's about me and I think, well, actually it wasn't about you, that was about me. I did something wrong or I believe something about myself. How can I grow in understanding myself? Where's that coming from? Why is that hurting me? Right. And we have to be able to take offense as opportunities to get understanding. Because at the end of the day, if we completely understand the other person and completely understand us, there would be so much less offense in the world. Yeah. If we actually sought to understand the other person and if we sought to understand ourselves truly.
Rather than just get angry.
Right. Rather than getting angry because it doesn't line up with something that I believe, something that I said, or something that I want to believe about myself.
And I think that's a big, that was a catalyst for me in dealing with offense, was realizing that it's not conducive to growth. I think I have a value for growing. I love being transformed and shaped, and I want to grow more towards truth. And I just realized that being angry at people for what they say, it doesn't help in any way. It just frustrates me. It's like unforgiveness. It only affects you, and oftentimes when you're harboring onto resentment, that person doesn't even know that they hurt you, So it's only actually damaging me, and it doesn't actually help me grow. It stifles growth. And so a big part of overcoming offense was like, man, I got to learn how to let go of this anger towards people. I got to learn to let go of myself and all of these ways that I get my value and my identity too. Like I got to find it moved me to find my identity in Jesus, because it's like if somebody can say something and hurt me and affect my ego, I don't want that to be the case, because I know me hurt Aaron and angry Aaron isn't an Aaron that loves well.
Right.
And that's also one of my core values, is that I love well. And if I'm angry with you, I'm probably not going to love you well, right? And so for me, it was like my ego needs to die. I need to be okay with being wrong and dealing with even guilt and shame about something. I need to work through that. I need to work through my own hurt around things. I need to work around letting go of people and having grace for people. I need to, because I want to love people. I want to love people well. And this stuff is not helping me achieve that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important to be able to recognize offense when it happens too, because if we get offended and then we start making excuses for the offense, or trying to reframe our offense as something positive.
Just say it, Daryl. Paint the fence.
If we paint the fence as something, paint the fence. If we try to paint a fence as something that it's not, we're never going to recognize it for what it is.
Dang, say it again.
If we try to paint a fence for what it's not, we're never going to recognize it for what it is. Mm-hmm. And we have to recognize offense for what it is. And if we try to make it, we use it as an excuse to behave a certain way, or think, well, this is a really important thing, so it's okay for me to act this way about it. Or, I care a lot about this thing, but you don't care about it, and therefore, I'm better than you. And we start looking down on people, and we think that it's okay. Because we have this feeling inside of us that we're right and that we're justified. Yes. And even if it is about an important topic, like, valuing somebody, listening to somebody, healthy communication, even if that's an important topic, I don't need to be offended about it. About somebody having poor communication, or thinking communication should happen a different way. I don't need to take offense. But or
not getting angry at something you're angry about, or not seeing something.
Like, you're not mad about this, so I'm mad because you're not mad.
I'm mad that you're not offended, or I'm offended
that you're offended.
Yeah, I'm offended that you're offended. It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and then we just build offenses. if each of us build a fence in our relationship, then there are two fences in our relationship.
Eventually we'll build an entire house out of fences. And keep ourselves lonely.
A house of offense between us.
Yeah. And I think no one wants to truly live like that. It's just what we've adopted, as kind of like the way, maybe because we didn't learn good problem solving as kids. I never learned how to deal with conflict. And what I saw in dealing with conflict and offense was resentment, and not talking about things, or not knowing how to talk about things. And a lot of what I saw is people getting angry for other people feeling something. So how do you ever develop trust if what you feel is not validated by another person? You know what I mean? Or if I don't even like that word necessarily, because you don't have to validate it or say that it's true, but you can at least say they're having this emotion. How can I be with them and support them? You know what I mean? Whether or not that could be your validation of the emotion, that they're having the emotion, So
because experiencing an emotion isn't a matter of truth necessarily, but an experience, and just acknowledge the experience.
Yes, and this is so crucial, because this is like the culture of offense, like right now, like just people getting so mad. And I think a large part of it comes down to believing that feelings are truth. That what we feel is truth, or it's my truth, but it's just a very volatile and dangerous place to live. Yeah. No matter what feeling you're listening to, even if it's a a good emotion necessarily. Like you can enjoy those things, but don't derive truth from them, because you're gonna be crazy,
Right.
You're gonna be absolutely crazy.
And that means it's true.
And deriving meaning from what I feel about what you said, it's like, that does not mean anything about me or you. It just means that I'm feeling it, and maybe we should just talk about how I feel it, and so that I can heal and that you can help me heal. Like, and that is like, it's crucial for healthy relationships. It's like, your feelings are not who you are. Chill. Chill, because otherwise, like you said, you start justifying in this, because it's like, it's my truth and you're not validating my truth. And it's like, why are you saying your feelings are truth? They're not.
Right. Yeah. Feelings, emotions, at least, are indicators.
Signposts towards something deeper.
Yeah. Right. And
they allow us to see something. Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of trying to get rid of someone's signpost, you try to see where it's pointing.
Right.
Like, well, follow the signpost. Where is this actually coming from?
Yes.
What's actually behind this? And we need to do that for ourselves too. If I'm feeling angry or sad, or I need to recognize what is this coming from? Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And if I do that, I can start seeing myself more truly.
Yeah.
More wholly.
It's good. Yeah. So dealing with offense. I mean, it's a bigger topic we probably could share. Do you have anything else on it, Daryl? Did you want to share anything else?
I think that, I guess, just wrapping up, just when we get offended, I think that first we need to recognize that the offense, Scripture talks about offenses coming. Offenses will probably come. You don't need to take every opportunity to get offended that there is,
or be looking for offense.
Right. And if there's a proverb that says, Proverbs 15:15 says, all the days of the afflicted are bad, which would sound like, makes sense. People who are having things happen to them all the time, their days are going to be bad. Right. But then it follows up right after, but a glad heart has a continual feast regardless of the circumstances. So on one hand, it's saying, if you're afflicted, all your days can be bad. But if your heart is glad, everything is a continual feast, regardless of what's going on.
So good. And
so recognizing that we have the opportunity to respond to situations. That if we make ourselves victims of everything, then we're always going to be a victim of everything.
If we make it about
everything's going to be offensive to us, right? If we make it about us and we get offended because we're making it about us whenever it's not, we're always going to be hurt. We're going to find reasons to be hurt because we look for reasons to continue believing the things that we already believe. So if I believe something negative about myself, I'm going to be looking around me. That's going to confirm that negative belief about myself. But it's probably going to cause offense because I don't want to believe that thing about myself. And so I'm becoming defensive in my response. And if we can recognize that we are making things about us and having our eyes on ourselves, we can change that once we recognize it. And so we need to be able to pay attention to those feelings that we have of offense and being stirred up and being hurt, and recognize, hey, is this actually about me or is this about something else? Right. Because if it's about something else, I don't want to spend time in this emotional draining energy trying to defend something that I don't need to be defending. Right. And if it is about me, I think to say this, if we feel offended, we should ask, is this about me? Right. Or even ask, what part of this is about me? Because if we can take any level of responsibility, ask, is this about me for the sake of taking responsibility, not blaming somebody else? Then we could do something about it.
It brings power back into your hands. It brings
power back to our hands. And if it's not about us, we recognize, hey, how is this about what's happening in the other person that's causing this?
And that brings power back into your hands.
Yeah, and that brings power back in your hands because then you can respond to them.
Then you could love somebody.
Instead of getting angry that Brittany's not listening to me, she's on her phone, I could say, hey, babe, I wanted to talk to you about this thing. Would it be better to talk later? Are you really tired, exhausted? And that's okay. I could recognize, hey, maybe she's really exhausted. Maybe she's really tired. Maybe she needs to do something else first or to recover or to, if she's falling asleep and she's really tired, like, hey, let's just go to bed. It's okay.
Right.
And not think it's about me, right? And same thing for her. If she can take the opportunity to get offended, or she could take the opportunity to try to understand me, and she could take the opportunity to communicate what's inside of her and what she's actually feeling during the experience.
Yeah.
And we can say, hey, this is what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if that person doesn't respond in a healthy way, if we say, hey, is this about me? And we say, okay, I'm feeling hurt because X, I'm going to communicate that, hey, this is really hurting me. I just feel like I need this from you right now. And that person doesn't respond in a healthy way, then at that point, it's no longer about you.
Right.
And it's about them probably in an unhealthy way.
You did what you could.
You did what you could, but at least do what you can before you start blaming somebody else for not doing their part.
Right.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to offense, though, we need to be able to take responsibility for what's ours and open our eyes and be open to being wrong, being open to making mistakes, and being open to it not being about us.
Yeah.
When we want it to be, and try to see the other person as best as we can,
Right.
and give ourselves empathy for when it is about something that's going on inside of our own heart.
I used to hear a preacher say, I'm so free from me that I'm free from you. And I think that's pretty powerful. I'm so free from my own ego that I'm free from you affecting my ego. And because I'm free from you, I can love you.
Right. Yeah.
And because I'm free from me, I'm okay with accepting blame, or maybe not blame, but responsibility in a situation, because I'm free from me.
Yeah.
Right. And so both seeing that in relationships, and that's something we listen to in our studying of this, is that there's a personal aspect and an impersonal aspect in every conflict and every relationship and in every offense. Right. So there's a part that could be your part that played, even if you didn't say anything, you were at least there and you were a recipient of the offense or whatever. And then there's an impersonal part where it's like you said, that Brittany's tired, or she's just like ready to go to sleep, something like that, So being able to see both of those, but holding those in balance and refraining and resisting the temptation to blow up at somebody or to harbor something instead of communicating what you need and being honest with where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff, man.
Good.
That's good. It's going to change your relationships if you, I think, take some of these principles. And I know that it's dramatically changed me, letting go of these things and allowing Abby to feel what she feels and not taking offense to where she's at or what she's feeling or what she says. It's amazing what it can do, because it creates so much space for love and seeing another person. And so we hope that you could take some of these things and vibe out on them. I don't know why I said that.
We hope you can love well.
We hope that you can munch on these things and grow fat and obese on the things of the Lord. Sorry. How do I close this? Follow us on Instagram, on Spotify, on iTunes, on YouTube. We want to get more people listening to this content. Make sure that you subscribe. We're so excited to bring you guys more content, but we love you. We care about you. Live free from offense this week and live in the beauty of God's heart. Good stuff.
Amen.
All right, guys. Later.
We love you. Bye.